So, sorry, we are a couple of minutes late, but welcome to this new edition and the new episode. And today, I have the honor of talking with Donna again. We had a great conversation with her a few weeks ago, and so today we have her back. And the topic for today is hybrid customer onboarding. And for those of you who might be living under a rock and don't know who she is the author of onboarding matters. And as everybody knows that onboarding is something that never goes smoothly, and whether it's B2B or B2C. And I remember my first iPhone that I got, and even though it's such a great phone and everything, and even I was like, what is this? And grinding your teeth sometimes because I was using Windows CE, even though not to say anything negative, but it left a lot to be desired. But I was used to what was there and what wasn't. And with iPhone and everything was changed and everything, and I was like, there were times when I wished I didn't buy this new toy. But anyway, so that was just me. So today we are gonna actually, I'm gonna read out this quote just so that I don't get it wrong, and then we are gonna let Donna jump in and explain to us, why she loves this quote, and how is it, how is it relevant in the realm of onboarding. And the quote is, systemize the predictable so you can humanize the exceptional. It's a mouthful for me, at least. I don't use those big
There's some
words,
big
but
words in there.
yeah, humanize. There you go. Humanize the exceptional. So, Donna, welcome.
Well, the honor is all mine, Shankar. Thank you for including me again, and I'm excited to continue our conversation. Yeah, so the quote is from Isidore Sharp, the founder of the Four Seasons. I learned it from Caleb Zimmerman, who is the chief customer officer at Tavera, where we were teaching a course together, and he brought that into the course. So systemize the predictable so you can humanize the exceptional. And that's a great kind of mantra for all of us in customer success, working with customers. So, there's a lot of talk about digital customer success these days. There's a lot of need to scale. There's a lot of focus on, quote, doing more with less. And so I think this is a great kind of mantra to keep in mind as we move forward.
Yeah, no, that's actually a good segue into the next part, which is that especially nowadays, everyone is trying to, as you just said, Donna, trying to do more with less. And that sometimes skews the thinking, especially in the minds of management, in terms of, one part of the equation, which is automation. And so I kind of want to talk about the role of automation in onboarding. Obviously it has a role. Nobody is can argue for, oh, just do everything by hand and all of that. So like in your way, in your thinking, how would you kind of put a boundary or a fence around what automation should and should not be doing during onboarding?
Well, first of all, I never throw technology at a problem because then you have two problems. So the first step is to really know what you're doing. The first step is to define some processes and identify what is repeatable, what is predictable, what are you doing over and over and over. Everyone on the team is doing over and over and over. So here's an example. I was working with a company in the UK that does that's a big data platform, and all the customer success managers during onboarding were training every new customer. Oh, let's talk about data. Let's talk about extracting, transforming, loading data. Let's talk about our platform. And they were doing all this training, which was very much the same for every customer. And I'm like, you guys are too smart to be doing this over and over again. You need to be focused on what's unique and special for every customer, what's different, and then you can be this specialist, not this basic, doing the same basic thing over and over and over. So we moved them to some digital onboarding, which was in this case some self-paced courses in the academy that covered the foundations of data and ETL and the platform. So now the customers could get that foundation, and and then the CSMs could be focusing on the what's unique for every customer.
So one thing, Donna, a follow up to that is that many times, customers are hesitant to take these, canned courses and such, because they feel it's easier for them to just keep hitting up their CSMs or account managers and inundating them sometimes with questions, and it's a faster way for them, they believe. So what are some of the ways to get customers to kind of, you know, do a little bit of what you just suggested in terms of going to an academy, online academy of sorts, and going through a couple of courses?
Well, I'll tell you about an experience I had recently where I was meeting with different vendors for air conditioning, for HVAC, and for my house. And one of the vendors, so here's some great automation. They use a platform called Service Titan. Coincidentally, my nephew works there, but I was so impressed with the experience. I found out, hey, what do you use? And then I was excited to see it's where my nephew works. The minute we, scheduled the technician to come out and do the evaluation, I got an email and had a list with here's what to expect, here's what happens next, here's all the things you need to have prepared, like your your recent electricity bills. It actually told me I need paperwork available. So they gave me a list. They told me what I need to do to be prepared. So in a similar way and in an automated way, we need to let customers know what they need to do, what they need to expect. And just because you tell them once doesn't mean that it's been clicked and they're going to do it. The studies I've read, the research I've read indicates we need to tell people the same thing anywhere from 7 to 21 times for them to really click. And I think a lot of customer facing teams think, well, implementation, well, we told the customers we need to do that. And then they're surprised and frustrated when it hasn't happened. But I don't know about you, but all day long I'm in Zoom meetings, and I've got, in addition to my business life, I've got personal life. And if you've got pets and kids and constant disruptions, it's really easy to forget these important things. And so there needs to be, that, hey, here's the process we go through. Here's what the 3 things you need to do before we meet, and then tell them over and over and over so that it starts to sink in.
Okay, no, that's a great point, because I guess the takeaway for CSMs is not to get frustrated. If they tell them once, so the customers once, tell them twice, tell them thrice. You need to, as you said, at least 7 to 21 times before it will click.
Yeah, and
So it's
what I like to do is help them see the journey ahead, and then here's what you need to do in that journey. I like to
yeah,
use the
no.
visuals to help people see what's required. So the customers need to know their part in the onboarding journey.
So in these kinds of courses, I mean, do you recommend people have some kind of quiz is a probably a strong word, but some kind of way of CSMs knowing that they actually watched it and kind of picked up on the key points, right? Or they just put it on and then started watching Netflix.
Yeah, well, ideally, if you have a learning management system, you can check completion rates and you can have a little check for understanding. So yes, ideally, you want to make sure that they understand they need the basics, because you're going to dive right in. So, for example, let's say I hire you as my personal trainer, Shankar, and you say, "Hey, we're going to go work out with kettlebells, and I need you to watch." Kettlebells are pretty complex, so I need you to watch this 3 minute videos on the basics of kettlebells. And if I don't watch them, then guess what, I'm not going to get my workout with you, right? Because so you could just say, great, it's like 9 minutes, but then I can get a good workout, and we can really, you can deliver value to me rather than information to me.
Okay, no, that's great. So there you go, people watching that. If you ask your customers to watch something, it's perfectly okay to know whether they actually did what you asked them to do, and it's not being rude or pushy or anything. It's just helping them help themselves, as
And,
they say,
and
right?
give them time. Don't say, look, you have to do this in the next day.
Yeah.
People are busy. But let's say you schedule that initial meeting with the CSM. hey, we need you to get it, get into the system and watch these 3 videos. Keep them real short and specific.
Yeah, excellent. So, Donna, moving on to the human touch, right? So we obviously talked about, hybrid, and as everybody knows, we are talking about automation versus the human touch or personalization. So, what role does, you know, the human touch play in onboarding? We talked about automation. We talked about some of the things that can help with the mundane affair, which are more scalable. But how does a CSM know that he's giving every customer the right amount of human touch to make the onboarding pain less? It
Well,
doesn't go away, but less.
Well, it all depends on how complex and your product is, how long the implementation is. So it really depends. But just to go back to the quote, what is the exceptional? How can you be exceptional? How can you be that what's unique for every customer, rather than going over the basics over and over? When you can be delivering the exceptional, it's also gives you more job satisfaction. So it's going to be a more positive experience for the implementation teams, the customer success managers, the customer facing teams, because they're not going to get so bored. They're not going to get so overwhelmed. So I've been working with teams where, here's an example for a company that they're based in Canada, and they have a platform. So when you're doing like adventures, like let's say you go river rafting, and there's a company there like on the rock, overlooking this big scary rapid. They take photos of you going through the rapid, right? And so they have the platform to upload the photos and to display them and to sell them. And so they have very specific seasons where the everyone's needing onboarding. Similarly, I work with ed tech companies, and guess what? Right now is a super busy season, and the onboarding folks were just completely wiped out because they were trying to individually onboard every customer. So what we did with them was we moved to a one-to-many approach, because these are often people who are, let's go back to that river rafting. They're outdoors. They're not going to sit and watch self-paced videos. So we said, great. During the month, let's say for that company, it's the spring, during May, 3 times a week, we're going to have this live online training session. We're going to walk you through how to set things up. So now we can work with 10 companies, 20 companies together, and they can do a lot of their onboarding. And then now the onboarding specialist can focus on where customers are getting stuck, the unique needs of customers, rather than being completely, like literally working 20 hours a day trying to get through these high seasons. And so now they're not going to be so burnt out that they leave. They're going to be more engaged because they're a specialist focusing on really helping customers get to the next level and not doing the same things over and over. So that's an example of, we can do one-to-many. Doesn't always have to be complete automation. It can be, I don't like to use the word webinar, a live tutorial, a workshopping session, an office hours. Those are things that can really, move many companies through the same process at the same time together.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think office hours works very nicely. It's kind of a great way to put a cohort together, maybe in some
Mhm.
way, and it creates synergy in terms of being part of a group and not feeling that you just don't understand everybody else is doing great. So it's kind
Yeah.
of
I
a
think
more.
customers love learning from each other, and we
Yes.
get to collaborate and commiserate. And everyone thinks that the problems that they're dealing with are unique, but the
Yeah.
reality is most of the times everyone's dealing with similar challenges.
Yeah, no, totally. So, one thing that also people kind of wonder, CSMs and management and stuff, is that the let's say in an onboarding you have X amount of automation and the rest in terms of human touch. Should that be consistent across the customer base? Because you could have small customers, medium customers, large customers, Fortune 50 customers, all those kinds of things. And should that approach kind of take into account what's the size of the deal? Because that is something that sales has very strong opinion on, and they will push for a certain end goal. But in terms of just being an efficient customer facing organization, what are the best practices around this?
Well, I just recently heard that Nick Mehta, the CEO of Gainsight, said that digital customer success is not a customer segment. And earlier, I'll just say in the last kind of several years, it was kind of this assumption that the large enterprise companies get the white glove treatment, and the small medium companies get the tech touch. And I've always argued with that, because what I see, sometimes the smallest companies need the most handholding. They don't have the team, they don't have the resources to really be successful with complex software. Sometimes the largest customers, they got whole teams in place, right? So they really know how to go in, and maybe they have project management organization, they've got technical people, they've got, certified admins, whatever it is. And the smaller companies, they're busy juggling many different roles. So it's really all, one, you really need to know your customers. Two, you need to know what outcomes you're driving. So, and then I really like to talk about this hybrid customer success or hybrid onboarding, where you're delivering the right touch to the right persona at the right time. And you can have high touch moments in a digital journey. You can have tech touch moments in a really high touch white glove journey. So it's really all about looking, knowing what, where things are lacking consistency, where you really need to move things forward, where customers are getting stuck, how you can, let's say if your smallest customers, they can't get to value because they're just, floundering. Well, you better go in and do stuff for them. And maybe you create a package, maybe you create a program. I'm not saying you do it for free, but you can create, a consistent, repeatable service. One company I worked with, they do like network infrastructure and monitoring, and they realize that customers really are most sticky when they have reports, when they have access to reports, because this is like not sexy software. It's stuff is, it's in the infrastructure, it's behind the scenes, and you don't really know if things are going well. You don't even know about it. So what they realized was they needed to have reports so people could see all the stuff going on behind the scenes. And so now they just have a quick start package. They just, most of the customers, you get the quick start package. We roll it out with your reports. And then customers get value immediately. They're not waiting to try to figure out how to create and access reports.
Yeah, no, actually, you made a lot of great points. Just to unpack a little bit, I mean, for people watching is, you talked about, you could have tech touch points and more white glove points based on where a customer is in the journey, not just who the customer is. And then you also talked about the various personas that you might be working with. And so even for the same customer, you might have different ways of getting them onboarded based on their skills and their comfort level with this pace of onboarding and what they know from before, from the prior experience, versus maybe what they're getting onboarded on now. And it's kind of, I think, in my opinion, I think it's a little bit of a collaborative exercise between CSM, working with the customer on a day-to-day basis, and their management to some extent, because obviously at the management level there are some certain goals that you need to adhere to, that you have promised to the executives. So there's a little bit of give and take in that, but I think it's definitely something that CSM should be talking internally, talking with the team, talking with the management, and trying to come up with, because not one size fits all, whether it's across a different customer base, small, medium, large, or even if it is the same customer, different people that you're working with. Would
Yeah,
they be fair to say?
yeah, absolutely. And so that's why you really need to know your customers. You really need to know what behavior you're trying to drive. So remember, it's not just information. You're looking to deliver transformation. That's one of my new favorite quotes. So then, so what do you need to do to really make that deliver that value, make some transformation happen along the onboarding journey? You can also look at it from an 80-20 rule. So maybe, what is the main route that most of your customers are going down? That's something to really start to look to automate. And maybe once they've done the foundation, then they're going to take their different routes They're different pathways, and then that's where maybe a CSM or onboarding specialist can really help. Or maybe that humanizing is going for those outliers that aren't part of that 80%. They're the 20% that get the special treatment. So there's all sorts of ways you can really divide it up.
Okay, sounds good. I mean, I think you know, 80/20 is always a safe way to look at things if you have nothing else that you can fall back on. Especially for startups or smaller companies where they don't have a big long history to look back and see. I think 80/20 rule is a great first draft of looking at automation or tech touch points versus human touch points. And
I,
then
I, I really recommend, rather than assuming every customer is a special snowflake, can you even group them into, let's say, if there's three groups, they usually go down route A, route B, route C. Try to group them so that you're not thinking every customer requires special care. And you know what? 80% of customers are trying to accomplish A, B, or C. Great. Then you can define a consistent, repeatable process to get to A, to get to B, to get to C. Then you can start to look to ways to automate components of each of those, and maybe the 20% that don't fit into A, B, or C. Then you can really give them that white glove treatment. But those are ways that you can get started.
okay, sounds good. Excellent. I think that was some really good information that Donna shared with us. Obviously, she wrote the book, so she knows what she's talking about. And I mean, thanks for your time, Donna. And we will love to have you back at some point again and talk some more about onboarding. And because onboarding is something that I think is a constant, consistent theme, pain point, not just for customers who are getting onboarded, but even for CSMs who have all kinds of horror stories to tell about their onboarding mishaps, which is sometimes their fault, or sometimes it's not. But that's just you know what should I say? Stories that folklore and such that get around. So
Well,
thank you once again, Donna.
I'm here to help. And my next cohort number 10 of my orchestrated onboarding masterclass starts in mid-September. So, come in, roll up your sleeves. We're going to define an optimized onboarding framework for your business and really look at where we can automate within that process.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Shankar.